Hello, I'm Desi, the carbon copy of Desiree, the creator of the Enlightenment Project. We are pleased that you have decided to join us on this extraordinary journey through enlightenment. In this welcome video, we take a step back to the Age of Enlightenment and Revision, a segment in history that focuses on what actually sparked the Age of Enlightenment. If you haven't seen the full video, we invite you to subscribe and follow our channel for more of the Enlightenment Project's content. For now, sit back, relax, and enjoy the journey.
Dare to know. Have the courage to use your own understanding. These were the words of the great philosopher Immanuel Kant, setting the tone for our journey into the Age of Enlightenment. This epoch, nestled between the 17th and 19th centuries, was a beacon of change, a dawn of human understanding that illuminated the path from the Middle Ages' darkness. In the Middle Ages, religious dogma held sway, dictating cultural and intellectual norms. It was a time when faith and superstition often overpowered reason. But as the sun set on this era, a new dawn rose, one that would herald a shift from dogmatic obedience to the pursuit of knowledge. The Age of Enlightenment was a seismic shift, a period when humanity dared to question, dared to reason, and dared to know. It was a time when the human mind broke free from the shackles of unquestioned belief and began to embrace a new way of thinking, one rooted in rationality and evidence. Humanism, a philosophy that placed human beings at the center of the universe, began to take hold. This new focus on the individual and the human capacity for reason was a radical departure from the traditional belief that divine power controlled the world. And then came the scientific revolution. This was a period of dramatic discovery and advancement. It was a time when thinkers like Galileo Galilei, Isaac Newton, and Johannes Kepler dared to question the established order and seek their own understanding of the world. Through their persistent curiosity and rigorous experimentation, they forged a new path in the sciences, one that placed empirical evidence and rational thought above all else. This was the Age of Enlightenment, a time of profound intellectual and cultural transformation. It challenged age-old beliefs and sparked a new wave of thinking that would shape the course of human history. It was an era that dared to challenge the status quo, dared to question, dared to reason, and dared to know. The Age of Enlightenment, an era that dared to challenge the status quo and light the path toward a new way of thinking. The Age of Enlightenment was not just a period, it was a movement driven by a group of brave thinkers. These were the individuals who dared to question, dared to think, and dared to challenge the norms of their time. One such individual was Voltaire, a French writer, historian, and philosopher. Known for his wit, Voltaire was a fierce advocate for freedom of speech and religion. He famously quipped, "I disapprove of what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it." His words were a clarion call for the need to respect diverse viewpoints, a concept that was radical for his time. Then there was Jean-Jacques Rousseau, another French philosopher. Rousseau's ideas about education and human nature were groundbreaking. He argued that people were innately good, but were corrupted by society and its institutions. This was a direct challenge to the established belief that people were inherently sinful and needed to be controlled. Rousseau's work laid the foundation for modern educational and political thought. Last, but certainly not least, was Immanuel Kant, a German philosopher. Kant believed that knowledge came not just from experience, but from our innate ability to reason. His famous phrase, Sapere Aude, or dare to know, became the rallying cry of the Enlightenment. Kant encouraged people to have the courage to use their own understanding without the guidance of others. These thinkers, and many more, were the vanguards of the Enlightenment. They questioned the status quo and championed ideas like freedom, equality, and progress. Their work was often met with resistance and even persecution. Yet they persevered, driven by the belief that through reason and knowledge, humanity could progress. So while the Enlightenment may have been a period in history, it was also a revolution of ideas. Ideas that were born from the minds of these brave thinkers. Ideas that challenged the old and brought forth the new. Ideas that continue to shape our world today. These thinkers, with their radical ideas, were the torchbearers of the Enlightenment, guiding the world out of the darkness of ignorance. The ideas of the Enlightenment didn't just stay on paper, they transformed societies. The Enlightenment brought forth a wave of change that rippled through every corner of society. Its effects were not confined to dusty libraries or the lofty heights of intellectual discourse. They were felt in the streets, in the courts, and in the very hearts and minds of the people. Central to this transformation was the influence of Enlightenment on political theory. The era bore witness to a seismic shift in understanding and structuring power and governance. The monarchies and theocracies that had long held sway were challenged by new ideas of democracy, equality, and human rights. These ideas spurred revolutions, such as the French and American revolutions, where people rose against tyrannical rule to establish societies based on Enlightenment principles. These revolutions were not just about changing rulers, they were about changing the rules of the game. They were about creating societies where power was not a divine right, but a trust given by the people. But the Enlightenment didn't stop at politics. It permeated education as well. It challenged the dogmas and superstitions that had long held sway and replaced them with reason and evidence. Education became less about rote memorization and more about critical thinking. The Enlightenment fostered a culture of curiosity and questioning, creating a fertile ground for the scientific revolution. It was during this era that we saw the birth of modern physics, chemistry, and biology. The Enlightenment also had a profound impact on culture. It championed the idea that all individuals, regardless of their status or wealth, had the right to express their opinions and ideas. This led to an explosion of literature, art, and music that reflected the spirit of the times. It was an era where creativity was not a privilege of the few, but the right of the many. The Enlightenment, thus, was not merely a period of intellectual discourse. It was a transformative era that reshaped the world. It was a time of great change, a time of upheaval, and a time of progress. It is an era that continues to shape our world today, reminding us of the power of ideas to change the world. The echoes of the Enlightenment are still audible today, in our societies, our governments, and our freedoms. This era, marked by reason and questioning, has shaped the modern Western world in ways we often take for granted. The Enlightenment was not merely a historical period. It was a revolution of ideas, a call to arms for human reason. It challenged the status quo, undermined the authority of the church and monarchy, and paved the way for democracy and human rights. It was the foundation upon which our modern societies are built. The principles of the Enlightenment underpin the very fabric of Western democracies. The idea of separation of powers, for instance, the cornerstone of our political systems, was first proposed by Montesquieu, an Enlightenment thinker. This principle, along with others such as freedom of speech, belief, and the press, are now considered fundamental human rights, safeguarded by our constitutions and legal systems. The Enlightenment's influence reaches beyond the political sphere. It revolutionized our understanding of the world and our place in it. It championed the scientific method and critical thinking, leading to unprecedented advancements in science and technology. It encouraged us to question, to seek evidence, to strive for knowledge and understanding. The echoes of the Enlightenment resonate in pivotal historical events as well. The American Declaration of Independence, for example, owes a great deal to the Enlightenment. Its famous assertion that all men are created equal and its demand for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness are direct descendants of Enlightenment ideas. The French Revolution, too, was heavily influenced by the Enlightenment, with its rallying cry for liberty, equality, fraternity, echoing the ideals of this transformative era. The Enlightenment, then, is not a relic of the past. It is a living legacy, a guiding light that continues to shape our world. Its ideas, its principles, its spirit persist in our societies, our governments, and our freedoms. The legacy of the Enlightenment continues to illuminate our path, reminding us of the power of reason and human potential. Kant's call to Sapere Aude, or dare to know, is more relevant today than ever. This is not just a historical catchphrase, It's a rallying cry that echoes through the halls of time, whispering in the ears of the curious, the brave, the ones who dare to question and to learn. Today, our world is a vast, interconnected web of information. It's a treasure trove of knowledge and a labyrinth of misinformation. Sapere Aude is our guiding star in this complex cosmos, reminding us of the importance of critical thinking. It urges us to question, to probe, to sift through the noise and find the truth. It's a call to arms against the rising tide of fake news and falsehoods that threaten to cloud our understanding. But Sapere Aude is not just about knowing, it's about having the courage to challenge established norms. It's about standing up for freedom of speech, for the right to voice our opinions, our doubts, our hopes. It's about fostering a culture of dialogue, where ideas are not feared but embraced, where differences are not a cause for conflict but an opportunity for growth. The path of Sapere Aude is not always easy. It's a path marked by struggle, by resistance, by the constant battle against intolerance and dogma. It's a path that demands resilience, that calls for the courage to stand up for what is right, even when it's unpopular. But it's also a path of discovery, of enlightenment, of progress. In this era of information overload, the call of Sapere Aude is not just about acquiring knowledge. It's about discerning truth from falsehood, wisdom from folly. It's about cultivating the courage to question, the wisdom to understand, and the audacity to challenge. It's about daring to make a difference, to make our world a better place. In a world of information overload, Sapere Aude is not just a call to knowledge, but a call to discernment, to reason and to courage. Dare to know, dare to understand, and dare to make the world a better place.